All right, so today we're reviewing mostly, and we're going to throw in one more little thing. That's just a dumb little joke. When you do square root of 16, is it 4 and negative 4? True or false? Is it? Square root of 16, is it 4 and negative 4, or is it just 4? It's just 4. This is just 4. Why? Because that's called the principal square root of 16. There is not 2 square roots of 16. But if I square root both sides, is that going to bring in 2 answers? Yes, because it's the absolute value of x, and this right here is just 9. It is not plus and minus 9. The reason that it has the plus minus is because of the absolute value. That makes you split it into x equals 9 and x equals negative 9. Do you get the difference between those two? This only has one answer. This has 2 answers because it's the variable that gets the absolute value. If there's no variable, it's just 4. Yes? I thought it was a hand. Okay. All right, let's move on. So if you had to do this one, it's got a root and it's got a power. Would you please figure out 9 to the 3/2 power in your head? First you do the root, then you do the power, write it down, turn it my way, and tell me what you think it is. Yep. 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 All right, did you get yours yet? Yep. 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 And wait a minute. Nope, because there's no plus minus. Because this was just a square root. I didn't square root both sides. There was no variable, so there is no plus minus. If there's a variable, that's where the plus minus thing would have come in. All right, moving on. This got all jumbly. I'm going to just skip that and move on to the next kind. These you should be able to do in your head like rapid fire. Okay, what is 5 to the negative second? It's got 2 things. First you square it, then you what? Flip it. Square it, then flip it. So what's the answer? 1 over 25. This one you square root it, and then you flip it. 1/7. Square root would be 7, and then the flip part is 1/7. How about that one? You square it, and then you flip it. So it's going to be... Square it then. So 16/9. Yep. 16/9 is the answer because you got to square it and then you flip it. So you're saying that that's 4/3? Because I think I see what you're saying. If you took the square root of the top and the bottom, but with that you can't do that. It does not reduce further because this is even and this is odd, and there's nothing that goes into both of them. Okay, so let's move on to this one. 27 to the 1/3 and then to the 4th in your head. Because it's really 3 to the 4th. And 3 to the 4th is 81. Very good. Okay, let's do this kind right here. That one. Everybody do that one on your blank Notability doc. Turn it my way. I'll tell you if you did it right. There's a few of you that didn't get the answer last time. Please get this going quickly so you can get the answer billboarded to me. The one I circled here. So now is the part where I'd have to put it to the power of 3 on both sides, and that becomes 27. 2x equals 27, so it's 27/2. Raise your hand if you understand that. Okay, good. Then let's move on to this kind right here. Everybody do that one quick. See what you get. Square both sides to start with. Almost everybody I checked had that one as 5/8, and you're all wrong. It's not a plus or minus thing because we squared both sides, and that doesn't bring in the plus minus. It's an extraneous thing because when you actually put in 5/8, you put in 5/8 right here, wouldn't you get a negative underneath a square root? Illegal. It's not negative 5/8, is it? Wasn't it just 5/8? It came out to positive 5/8, and when you put it in, it does not work. So that 5/8, you should have said, does not work. What kind do we profile? The guys with the big jackets walking into the Metrodome. These guys have the jackets on. You should have checked them. All right, let's move on to the new stuff. Okay, everybody get to this one. Rita wants to invest $500 in a savings account so that its doubling time will be 8 years. What annual percentage rate is necessary for this to happen if the interest is compounded annually? All right, so do you get the idea? She's putting money in. She wants it to double. All right, do you remember writing equations for these? We have to put in the little equation that we would have for it, which is y equals ab to the x. And this, in this case, they've told us it's got to be 8 years that this thing doubles. Do you get why the x has to be an 8? Because that's where our time goes. Okay, and then our starting amount was $500. Starting amount goes right there, 500. Here, I shouldn't even pull that up yet. Then, what else do we know? Do we know B or do we know Y or what do we know? We know Y, yeah. What's Y supposed to be? 1,000 because we want this thing to double. So this should be 1,000. Do you get how there's only one thing left? And it's B. And that says, what annual percentage rate? That's a question word. That's not an answer. So they want to know what rate should it be. So how you finish this one is you don't just say that the B is the rate. Do you remember how the B actually is written like this? 1 plus the rate. So you go 1 plus R right there. So then your final answer for this one would be 1,000 equals 500 times 1 plus the rate is to the power of 8. And then you solve it for the R. All right, I know sometimes that can kind of blow kids away. All I really did, though, was y equals ab to the x, and I just stuck in stuff I knew. I knew the starting was 500, so I put a 500 here. I knew the time was 8, so I put an 8 here. And I knew that the amount I wanted it to be, that's kind of a stretch, but this one right there, the y, that I wanted it to be double. Then you can figure out what rate it has to be. Okay, now how do you solve one like this? Everybody take this right here and write it on a page where you have a lot of room underneath it to solve it. I want to show you how to solve that. Okay. Just get all this stuff out of here. And I'm going to get all this stuff out of here too. Cut all of that. Now I'm down to just this. There we go. Perfect. Cut that part too. How do you solve that? First step, you want to divide by 500. You're always trying to get the chunk, the clump alone. That's the clump. You try to get that alone. So we have to divide by 500 on both sides. And that works nice because 1,000 divided by 500 is 2. Right? Equals 1 plus r to the 8th. Then, if I'm trying to get the r alone, I got to get rid of this 8th power next. Because the parentheses have to be last. Because when you're solving something, you're doing the opposite of the order of operations. Normally, it's please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. When you're solving, you do your add, subtract stuff first, and your multiply, divide stuff next. I just did a divide. And then your exponents come next. Because notice you go this way. And your parentheses, whatever in the parentheses you, that's the last thing you do. So I got to do this exponent right now. When you're solving, you do the opposite of the normal order of operations. 2 to the 1/8 power. What are you, crazy? You'd have to have a calculator for that part. Unless you know what the 8th root of 2 is. And calculators would be allowed on this part. There is parts where they're allowed and parts where they're not allowed on your test on Thursday. Okay, so we're getting closer. You know, you got Monday. Obviously, today's Monday. Got Tuesday and Wednesday, 2 more days to review, and we have a test on Thursday. So 2 to the 1/8. Can somebody have that yet? Remember when you do this, 2 to the 1/8. If you do it that way, it'll be wrong. What do you need? Parentheses. Right there. 2 to the power of parentheses 1/8. If you haven't got a calculator, get one. You'll need one for the homework, and you'll need one for the little quiz we're going to take in class. So grab your effing calculators, borrow one from me if you want to, leave me a whatever you want, a cell phone, a wallet. What? We aren't done yet. So just for right now, you're just doing 2 to the power of 1/8, and then why don't you tell me, Miss W, what did you get? 1.091? Awesome. That equals, notice, 1 plus r. So now I bet you can answer your own question. To get the rate, what do I do next? Subtract 1, because that's 1 is right here. Not just because you should know it like in your head that that's what you should do. It's just because there's a plus 1 here. So we use minus 1 to fix it. Now the rate is alone, and it is 0.091. What does that mean? 9.1% interest will make this person's money double. We started with this $500 in the savings account. She wanted it to double in 8 years. That's what you needed, was 9.1% interest. All right, I'm going to give you another one just like that. Everybody try to set up the right equation for this. Your dad's got $50,000 he's trying to save for you for college, but he knows college is going to cost a lot more than that. Let's say he's got $50,000 saved, and he's got 4 more years left between now and when you go to college. I know for some of you that are juniors that's not realistic, but we just got to keep it the same for everybody for right now. So if you got 4 years, how much interest rate would you need to make the money double? Steps in the problem. First, you write down the equation. And you stick in stuff you know. 4 years. X is 4. Starting amount is A, 50,000. Most people can do that part. Now, what do I do next? Give me something I can do. I want it to double, so Y is 100,000. Very good. Then, the B is the thing I don't know. The B is really a 1 plus a rate, so that would be really smart to do it that way. 1 plus the rate. Then, divide by 50,000. 2 equals 1 plus r to the 4th. You see how I'm going to fix that now? Yes, sir? What did you do? Starts with C, first name. Go ahead. Go ahead, put it to the 1/4, and what did you get? $1.19, okay, equals 1 plus r. How do I finish? Final answer, rate is 0.19, 19% interest. That's a lot. Can you get an investment that will do that? It happens. Sometimes you get that. I mean, if you invest in the right stock, you can make 9%. 19%. It can happen. Just in the last few days, Apple stock has gone up. So it went up 8% in one day, and then it's gone up like 2% each day since then. So Apple stock's up like 12% just in the last 3 days. So can it happen? Sure. Is it guaranteed to happen? Definitely not. All right, one more kind of problem. They give you an equation like this. Everybody take a look at this one closely, and I can be done with the lesson. That right there is our problem. Do you get that there's an H and a T in it? And it's about elephants. The height compared to T is the age. T is kind of like time, you know, like time is kind of like age. So anyway, there's 2 things here, the height and the T, the time that the elephant's been alive, I guess you could say. And basically, they can tell you the height of the elephant. Now, I can tell you this. This levels off. If you look at the graph of the cube root, it's a graph that goes like this. Does it make sense that elephants wouldn't keep growing super fast? But at the beginning, they would grow pretty fast. Does that make sense? All right. So if I actually wanted the answer for this one, how tall is the average 5-year-old male? Where do we put the 5? That's all it is. Stick the number in the right spot and solve. Okay, so this shouldn't be that bad. If they instead tell you the height, here's a 10 feet tall elephant. That's a big elephant, and yes, they do get that big. Where do I put that? An H. So you put this as a 10, and you solve it from there. So if I had to solve this one, common mistake people make is to cube root, get rid of the cube root right away and cube everything. Can't do that. What do you do first? Subtract 3. That makes it 7 equals cube root of 13t. How do I get the cube root off of there? Not one, that's cube means 1/3. So I put it to the third. 7 to the third is a big number. And then I'm going to divide that by 13. Somebody do that. 7 power of. What is it? What's the t? Wow. Could you have anything else on the way down? 26.38. Can anybody verify that they got that? Yes or no? Oh, is my mistake? Okay, tell me what's wrong, maybe. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm doing the work up here, but this, when I put the 10 in here, I'm actually doing this part of the problem. Sorry, I'm putting it in the wrong spot. This should really be lower, but I was just taking the next empty space underneath the problem. So this is supposed to be all like this more. There. I was trying to find the average. When will the average elephant reach 10 feet tall? So I'm trying to find a time because it says when. Okay, so final answer, 26.38. I can believe that. That's probably in years. It does say age in years. All right. So I'd like to get you in your groups so that when you go to lunch that you already know who you're working with. So when you come back, you can just get right to work. So I'm going to hand these out, but I'd like to do it in a different way than normal so that it'll encourage you to actually get up, find somebody to work with. You may be in groups of up to 3. If there's a group of 4 that really just has to be, you have to ask special permission. Otherwise, 3 or 2 is okay, or 1's okay. 1, 2's, or 3's. Okay, come on up and get the paper. They're right there. Find the person you want to work with. That's all I have for the video for today. Apparently.